want to go outside right now, let's go. I am sick and tired of being attacked by these people in this community, apologizing for the racism that is going on in this community. You're the problem. Stop!
Now at 5:30, it was sentencing day for a police officer who was convicted of attacking a male nurse at Jackson Memorial Hospital. That attack happened back in May of last year. That officer was fired for that incident. He had been with the Miami police force for more than 20 years.
And now he has to pay the price for slamming the nurse to the ground.
This is Lester Bonenblust, 51, who has been convicted of assaulting and aggressively throwing a male nurse to the ground at Jackson Memorial Hospital. His charges include violence against a person over 65 and false detention. The incident occurred after Bonenblust's niece, dealing with mental health issues, was discharged from the hospital. Her father returned the following day seeking readmission, but medical professionals determined she didn't meet the criteria. In response, he called his brother, Bonenblust, who was also a law enforcement officer. Upon arriving at the hospital, Bonenblust was informed by a nurse that discussing the patient's issue in a public area was inappropriate. They moved to a quieter spot for privacy. However, Bonenblust turned aggressive, grabbing the nurse's jacket and throwing him to the ground. Surveillance footage revealed that Bonenblust had approached the nurse from behind. The nurse resisted and demanded he let go. Subsequently, Bonenblust was terminated from his 20-year police career due to this incident.
Count 1, battery on a person 65 years of age or older, and guilty on 1 count of false imprisonment.
This is James Nicholson, a retired 66-year-old nurse who witnessed the heartbreaking incident. Nicholson, who had to leave his nursing career behind due to a knee injury, shared his perspective on the incident.
To a point where I was yelling at the top of my lungs, help, help. What happened to me that day should not happen to anybody, especially a healthcare worker.
When Miami-Dade County Judge Marissa Tinkler Mendez delivered the verdict last Friday, Bonenblust's family was overwhelmed with emotion. The judgment decreed a 45-day imprisonment for Bonenblust, to be succeeded by 3 years of probation. Alongside these penalties, he is also required to complete 100 hours of community service. This is Eric DeValcaneri, a former police officer from Kansas City. His story took a dark turn when he was found guilty of the murder of a black man in 2019. The tragic incident unfolded as the victim was in the process of backing a pickup truck into his own garage.
The court is further compelled to find beyond a reasonable doubt that when defendant shot and killed Cameron Lamb.
On December 3, 2019, a fatal shooting occurred in Kansas City involving Eric DeValcaneri and his partner. The incident stemmed from a traffic situation with a red pickup truck. A police aircraft observed the truck entering a backyard driveway behind a house. Despite lacking a proper warrant and while dressed in plain clothes with police vests, the officers entered the property with their weapons drawn. During this event, the victim, identified as Lamb, was in the process of slowly reversing the pickup truck down a ramp towards a basement garage. DeValcaneri arrived on the scene, with his partner positioned on Lamb's side of the vehicle, affording a clear view of him. As events unfolded, the officers made an effort to halt Lamb's actions, although it remains uncertain if he was able to hear their instructions, as outlined in the indictment. In a critical moment, DeValcaneri took action. Witnessing Lamb's left hand reaching for a pistol and subsequently aiming it at his partner, DeValcaneri responded by discharging 4 shots towards Lamb. The situation had escalated rapidly, prompting DeValcaneri to react based on the perceived threat. Eric DeValcaneri received a sentence of 9 years in total for all his charges.
County teenager killed getting off of his school bus. She's now demanding justice for the ex-cop who hit her son. And today, a judge sentenced John Canfield to 35 years in prison.
This is John Canfield, the individual behind a deeply distressing incident where he struck 5 children as they were making their way to their bus stop. Amidst the sorrow that enveloped this tragic situation, the family of one of the young victims, Jaheim Robertson, stepped forward to deliver a heartfelt plea. Within the courtroom, it was evident that Jaheem's parents were grappling with an immense sense of grief. Overcome by the weight of their loss, they eventually found the strength to break their silence, using their voices to convey the profound emotions they were experiencing.
You don't know the pain that you have caused. My son was mowed down and killed by John Camfield, an ex-cop who chose to drink your sorrows away and then get behind the wheel.
Investigation into the incident revealed a troubling detail about John Camfield's state. It's suspected that he was operating a vehicle with a blood alcohol level that was twice the legal limit when he collided with 5 students from Dundee Ridge Middle Academy who were walking near their designated bus stop. This unsettling discovery points to the fact that he was driving under the influence of alcohol during the time of this tragic event.
They're screaming, saying, "Daddy, help me."
In an unexpected turn of events, an off-duty officer associated with the Polk County Sheriff's Office, accompanied by his father, took it upon themselves to give chase to the suspect. Jonathan Quintana, one of the individuals caught up in this incident, vividly recalls the pivotal moment when Camfield's actions had devastating consequences. The impact of this tragic event, which claimed the lives of several young individuals, stirred up a wave of poignant emotions and profound reflections among those who were directly affected.
Advise your daughter.
Camfield has put forth an explanation for the incident, asserting that he experienced a medical crisis at the time. He attributes his blackout to a liver issue, implying that his health condition played a significant role in the unfolding of events. According to his account, his medical emergency was a contributing factor that led to the unfortunate series of actions.
Of controlling the events that occurred on April 27th. I had not been drinking at all that day.
Consequences for Camfield's actions have been severe. The judge, responding to the gravity of the situation, made the decision to revoke his driver's license permanently. In addition to this, the potential legal outcome looms even larger. Camfield faces the possibility of a life sentence in prison as a result of the actions he took on that fateful day.
It cannot bring him back, but all I'm asking is for justice for him.
This is William Melendez, a former police officer from Michigan who was found guilty of assaulting a black man during a routine traffic stop.
With his hands extended out of his driver's window, he was grabbed out, thrown to the ground, and struck 16 times in the head.
The complete incident was captured by the officer's dashboard camera, providing an undeniable record of the events. When Judge Vonda Evans reviewed the footage, she did not mince her words when it came time for sentencing.
I would have thought this: what crime did I commit? Being a black man in a Cadillac, stopped for a minor traffic offense by a group of racist police officers looking to do an. After hearing the defendant and his fellow officers joke about his injuries as they were wiping blood off their uniforms with disinfectant. 2015. Please be quiet in my courtroom.
And now, let's hear the perspective of the reprehensible officer in question.
Mr. Dent and his family, I am truly sorry.
Melendez received his sentence for his actions, being ordered to serve a prison term ranging from 13 months to a maximum of 10 years for his misconduct.
Nearly 1 month after he was sentenced in a racist attack in Nashville, Officer Michael Reynolds of the NYPD has resigned. News Channel 5's Matthew Torres has reaction from the victim's attorney, who's disappointed it took this.
This is Michael Reynolds, a police officer hailing from New York City. As documented in court records, he arrived in Nashville on a Sunday morning in July 2018, embarking on a 3-night bachelor celebration getaway, along with 6 other individuals, including 2 fellow officers from the New York City police force. However, approximately 18 hours into their stay, Officer Reynolds, who is white, found himself in a distressing situation. Intoxicated and consumed by anger, he forcefully kicked open the door of a black woman's residence. His actions took a disturbing turn as he proceeded to threaten both the woman and her sons, using racial slurs and abusive language. Amid his fury, he shockingly uttered the alarming words, "I'll break every bone in your neck." Following this alarming incident, he swiftly retreated to his adjacent Airbnb property, narrowly evading the law enforcement officers who were responding to the scene.
I understand that he has claimed that this was an accident, but you cannot accidentally kick in somebody's door. You cannot accidentally threaten to break their necks. You cannot accidentally hurl racial slurs.
A portion of the incident was captured on camera from a neighboring house.
Terrorized the home while Halliburton and her children were still inside.
Reynolds entered a plea of not guilty in response to 4 charges stemming from the incident. Subsequently, he was handed a sentence of 15 days in prison, along with 3 years of probation.
No justice! No peace! No justice!
Reynolds' resignation comes one day after a rally in New York demanding the NYPD to fire him.
Is to demand answers from the NYPD about why Michael Reynolds is still employed.
Despite the outcome of his case, he continued to hold his position as a police officer, sparking significant backlash against the New York Police Department. The incident ignited a wave of outrage, leading to more than 10,000 individuals signing an online petition that demanded his immediate dismissal. The petition also extended support and empathy to Kenise Halliburton, the woman whose home he had invaded.
There's been weeks of mounting pressure and an online petition garnering 12,000 votes. Even NBA star LeBron James weighing in on his sentencing with this tweet. While Horwitz likes the result, he still questions why the police department didn't take action early on.
Daniel Horwitz, the legal representative for Kenise Halliburton, characterized Michael Reynolds as an individual with a propensity for violence and a concerning inclination towards racism. In an email statement, Horwitz emphasized that Reynolds should not be entrusted with a badge or a firearm due to his volatile and hazardous nature. Horwitz went on to underscore Ms. Halliburton's position, asserting that she firmly and vehemently called upon the New York Police Department to promptly terminate Reynolds' employment. This demand was rooted in the goal of preventing any further harm that could arise from his actions.
Danger to a lot of people when police officers who lack impulse control and integrity are on the force.
The consequences for Officer Reynolds are substantial. Devorah Kaye, the acting deputy commissioner for public information, clarified that he would not be eligible for a pension or health benefits. Moreover, he would be prohibited from carrying a pistol. Kaye underscored the fact that Reynolds' actions stood in stark contradiction to the principles and expectations that the New York City Police Department holds for its members. In court, Officer Reynolds expressed remorse and offered an apology. He explained that he had no recollection of the incident due to his heavy consumption of alcohol. Throughout his testimony, he repeatedly expressed his regrets, admitting his mistake and acknowledging that he had consumed an excessive amount of alcohol. This is Lamar Thorpe. The city is currently grappling with heightened emotions as a result of the exposure of racist and homophobic text conversations among police officers. These distressing exchanges came to light as part of a federal investigation, and they have ignited strong reactions within the community.
I am sick and tired of being attacked by these people in this community, apologizing for the racism that is going on in this community. You're the problem.
Antioch's mayor, Lamar Thorpe, found himself embroiled in a heated exchange with a resident during a city council meeting. The incident was a manifestation of the intense emotions that have been stirred up by the revelation of the offensive texts among police officers. Numerous community members voiced their anger and disappointment over the content of these messages. In response to this widespread outrage, Mayor Thorpe made a resolute promise to implement meaningful changes in light of the situation.
I'm not sweeping it under the rug. We're not going to do that. All right? They may get upset. The institution and the status quo may get upset, but I'm not hiding behind that.
There's a lot of good officers in the Antioch Police Department who work hard every day. I'm not going to indict the entire organization. Let's just be clear, this is unfortunate.
The mayor has disclosed a startling revelation. A total of 24 officers were implicated in the controversy. This amounts to a staggering 20% of the police department being placed on leave in the wake of these distressing events. This is Michael Sipple, guilty for assault. A judge has rendered this ruling in the case involving a police officer. The charges stemmed from an incident where he faced 1 count of assault for the altercation with Christopher Pate that occurred last May. This unfortunate event transpired when he mistakenly identified Pate as a wanted individual.
There was no jury here. It was the judge who decided Sippel's fate.
In a significant development, Judge Morse declared Officer Michael Sipple guilty of third-degree assault. As he deliberated on the verdict, the judge underscored the necessity of concentrating on the specific incident involving Officer Sipple, his fellow officer, and Christopher Pate on May 5, 2018, along with the legal intricacies that accompanied it. He made it clear that the case was not about determining the general use of force by police officers during arrests, as they are authorized to do so. Similarly, he highlighted that it was not about citizens having the right to resist arrest, as they do not. Following the judgment, both the prosecuting and defense sides revisited a pivotal aspect of the case, the body camera footage, which served as crucial evidence in this matter.
Judge was the most important piece of evidence in this case. I think everybody can say that after seeing that footage.
Zippel's lawyer shared that while they were aware that such an outcome was within the realm of possibility, both he and Sipple were taken aback by the judge's ruling. This is Michael Amiad, the Euclid police officer who has been convicted of assault in connection with a case dating back to 2017. Amiad's punishment was determined to be 1 year of probation, accompanied by a mandatory payment of a $1,000 fine towards court fees. Initially, the judge declared a 90-day prison term, which was subsequently suspended. It's important to note that this sentence pertains solely to the assault charge he faced.
Police need to be able to control folk, no doubt about that. There must be control. But there's a limit to how that's done.
About 8 months ago, Michael Amiot was convicted of assault and violating the civil rights of Richard Hubbard during a traffic stop in 2017. The incident occurred when Hubbard was accused of resisting arrest after Amiot discovered he was driving with a suspended license. Disturbing video footage captured Amiot repeatedly slamming Hubbard's head onto the ground. Eventually, the charges against Hubbard were dropped, and the city agreed to settle with him for $450,000. Following a suspension lasting 45 days, the mayor of Euclid made the decision to terminate Amiot from the police force. However, an independent arbitrator intervened and reinstated him a year later. Amiot's legal troubles began when he was arrested and charged in Euclid Municipal Court in August 2019, stemming from the investigated traffic stop. The trial, unfortunately, faced a 2-year delay due to the impact of COVID-19. Eventually, in July 2022, he was criminally charged and found guilty on misdemeanor charges.
I did listen to your trainers, your prior instructors. I did listen to them. But I do believe in this case, I believe the jury got it right.
After the conclusive verdict, Officer Amiot shared his thoughts. Looking ahead, he expressed his endorsement for comprehensive training throughout the entire department.
For or against use of force. Everything I did on that day was based on my training and experience.
In the meantime, Officer Amiot was designated to the Euclid Police Department's warrant unit. The department stated that his forthcoming role within the organization remains undecided at this time. This is Michael Notoriano, a former police officer from St. Clair Shores, who has been sentenced to 6 months in jail. This sentence is a result of his involvement in a violent confrontation with a group of Detroit men who had allegedly stolen his daughter's cell phone. The judge's ruling came with a strong message, underscored by the severity of the sentence. Here's the context. Notoriano, previously a St. Clair Shores police officer, faced a single misdemeanor charge in court at Frank Murphy. This followed a jury verdict that acquitted him of 10 other charges, which included armed robbery and racial intimidation. There had been an expectation of probation during sentencing, but the judge had different plans in mind.
I do deeply regret this incident.
Former St. Clair Shores police officer Mike Notoriano appeared before Judge Kenny, ready to offer an apology.
Winners at all in this situation, not only for myself and my family, but for all of those involved.
Every single thing he's done as a police officer exemplifies everything we wanted.
However, despite being a father and husband with a 20-year career in law enforcement, Mike Notoriano now faces a 6-month term in Wayne County Jail. Judge Kenny's decision serves as a clear demonstration, deviating from the prosecution's recommendation of 18 months of probation.
Be a deterrent to others who might think to act in that.
In the preceding year, a jury rendered a verdict against Notoriano, finding him guilty of willful neglect of duty as a public official. This conviction stemmed from an incident that occurred at a Citgo gas station in Detroit back in July 2013. During the incident, Notoriano, alongside Detroit Police Sergeant David Pomeroy, aimed a gun at 2 men and directed racial slurs at them, using the N-word. Photographs captured Pomeroy and Notoriano present at the scene, both off-duty at the time. The men they confronted were alleged to have stolen Notoriano's 16-year-old daughter's cell phone. While only the misdemeanor charge persisted, Notoriano's attorney argued that his actions from nearly 3 years ago were inconsistent with his character.
He's not the same man that he was on July 21st, 2013.
However, when the prosecutor uncovered evidence of racial slurs made by Notoriano, including text messages found on his phone, Judge Kenny determined that prejudice was indeed a defining aspect of Notoriano's character. As a result, the judge chose to hand down a jail sentence rather than opting for probation in the case. This is Brandon Brophy, who finds himself in the Fresno criminal courts, attending a hearing for his burglary charge. At 31 years old, he is present in the courtroom, preparing for the upcoming legal proceedings. Yet, in a sudden twist, he abruptly reaches a decision. He no longer wishes to remain in the courtroom. Despite being handcuffed, Brophy's attempt to escape doesn't get him far, as he is swiftly subdued by a deputy in the corridor. Amid the confrontation, Brophy makes a daring move to seize the deputy's pistol, all while 2 onlookers opt to distance themselves from the unfolding scene. Despite the significant physical advantage, being a foot taller and at least 50 pounds heavier, Brophy's determination to escape is matched by the deputy's unyielding resolve. Witnessing the intense struggle, another bystander bravely intervenes by applying a headlock to help subdue Brophy. Responding swiftly, deputies and court personnel rush in to provide additional assistance and bring the situation under control. After the intense struggle, Brophy is effectively subdued, restrained, and seated in a wheelchair for his own safety. He's subsequently escorted back to the prison. In the aftermath of the incident, Brophy is apprehended once more and formally placed in Fresno County Jail. This time, he's confronted with additional felony charges for attempting to evade capture, on top of the original burglary charge. A substantial bond of $1,693,000 has been established as he awaits his upcoming court appearance.
Did I say that right? Yes, sir.
This is Jeremy DeWitt, a 41-year-old who is facing charges related to carrying a concealed firearm. The Orange County Sheriff's Office is intimately familiar with DeWitt's history and background. Jeremy DeWitt's criminal history is marred by multiple prior arrests and a previous conviction for impersonating a police officer. DeWitt is the owner of a security firm that specializes in providing escort services for funeral processions. However, it's important to note that he has a track record of misusing this company's services. He has been known to engage in reckless driving through traffic, block intersections, and even confront other vehicles that he perceives as hindering his funeral procession services. Following a period of investigation, law enforcement successfully apprehended DeWitt, resulting in charges filed against him across 2 separate counties. The allegations against him encompass impersonating an officer, as well as failing to properly register as a sex offender. DeWitt initially secured release on bail, but approximately 10 months later, officials managed to locate him once more. During an encounter with a deputy, DeWitt and one of his workers were stopped after the deputy noticed DeWitt seemingly carrying what appeared to be a handgun.
Don't reach for that firearm. Walk away from your bike. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Go down to your knees. Do not reach for that firearm. You're being secured because you're openly carrying a firearm. What? You're openly carrying a firearm.
Carrying a firearm openly is prohibited in Florida. After his arrest, DeWitt finds himself restrained in handcuffs. Subsequently, the deputy makes an attempt to remove DeWitt's helmet, an action that the alleged impersonator officer vehemently resists. Upon learning the cause of his arrest, DeWitt's emotions spiral out of control, and he becomes consumed by rage. DeWitt's frustration with the police is evident, and it appears that he is fixated on a specific matter. Nevertheless, genuine law enforcement professionals are not endorsing or accommodating his demands. DeWitt is apprehended and transported to the police station, where he faces official charges related to carrying a concealed firearm. Yet, further investigation brings to light that the alleged weapon was, in fact, an unloaded pepperball pistol. Consequently, DeWitt's charges are eventually dismissed.
As a Glock, basically a Glock replica. Can you show me on here anywhere, I mean, I don't know why you'd have a light on a less lethal, but can you show me anywhere on here where it gives anybody the idea that this is not a firearm, that it's a less lethal?
I can't answer that. I don't make those. But you know they're less lethal.
No, I'm asking. If I saw this, I wouldn't know that.
That's where you're from. But you can say that for somebody else.
Okay.
How's it going, sir? Good. How are you?
DeWitt's challenges, however, are by no means resolved. Following his recent arrest, his existing bond has been revoked. This mandates that DeWitt must appear before a judge to seek clarification and address the situation.
Your Honor, I was on bond. They revoked my bond with a new charge, but that charge was dropped.
He has approximately 10 or 11 other cases that he's currently incarcerated.
Oh, you got a bunch of different cases that are keeping you. Right.
Eventually, DeWitt is released from custody, and his bond is reinstated. Nonetheless, he will have to go through a trial for the charge of impersonating a police officer. Should he be found guilty, he could potentially be sentenced to up to 5 years in jail.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have a good day. Yep.
Tears in court during sentencing for the former police officer who shot and killed Corey Jones. Today,
this is Newman Raja, a police officer who was found guilty of manslaughter by culpable negligence and attempted first-degree murder with a firearm for the shooting death of Corey Jones, a 31-year-old musician and housing inspector. Jones was fatally shot while waiting for help on the roadside with his broken-down car. The incident received considerable media coverage due to its connection to a pattern of similar cases involving black individuals being killed by law enforcement officers. Corey Jones's loved ones conveyed their grief and anger through heartfelt messages, expressing their sorrow over the ongoing acts of violence within their community.
This should have never happened. My uncle should still be with us alone.
Prosecutors presented evidence revealing that in the early hours of August 18, 2015, Newman Raja, while on duty but in plain clothes, encountered a seemingly abandoned car by the roadside. Approaching the car, he engaged in a brief conversation with its occupant, Corey Jones, who was seeking assistance. Jones, legally carrying a purchased firearm, was then approached by Raja. Raja claimed Jones aimed the pistol at him, while the prosecution argued Raja fired as Jones attempted to flee. Within seconds of the initial interaction, Raja fired 6 shots, 3 of which struck and killed Jones. Following the trial, the court issued a statement sentencing Raja to 25 years in prison for each of the charges: manslaughter by culpable negligence and attempted first-degree murder with a firearm. These sentences would be served concurrently, meaning Raja would serve both sentences simultaneously.
On count 1, I hereby sentence him to 25 years in the Department of Corrections. And on count 2, I hereby sentence Mr. Raja to 25 years in the Department of Corrections.
This is Lisette Gonzalez, a 46-year-old woman who found herself facing accusations of driving under the influence in Sanford, Florida. The trial concluded with the jury delivering a guilty verdict. However, just before the final judgment is to be rendered, Lisette's defense attorney makes a final appeal to the judge. Despite Officer Wagner's claims that Lisette had tested above the legal limit, the attorney points out a crucial detail. Lisette was never subjected to a breathalyzer or blood test. This raises doubts about the accuracy of the charges against her.
Respectfully ask that this court grant the judgment notwithstanding the verdict.
In an unusual turn of events within the courtroom, Lisette Gonzalez's defense counsel boldly requests that the judge overturn the guilty verdict delivered by the jury and declare Lisette innocent. During their argument, tensions rise as the judge engages in a heated dispute with the prosecution team. The unexpected nature of this request adds an air of tension and anticipation to the courtroom proceedings.
Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I am dismissing this charge.
Taking everyone by surprise, the court makes an unforeseen decision to dismiss the charges against the defendant. Instead, they issue a JOA, which stands for Joint Operating Agreement, indicating an unexpected resolution. But the judge's actions don't conclude there. It seems there's more in store for the courtroom proceedings. The unfolding of events leaves both the legal teams and the audience intrigued about what's to come next.
Consider what Officer Wagner testified to and how many times he basically tripped over himself just to arrest this lady with no real probable cause. You're done. Motion, your JOA is granted.
And you're not going to provide a written order on that?
Nope. You want to appeal me? Appeal me.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Lisette Gonzalez, the individual at the center of the legal proceedings, walks out of the courthouse relieved and unburdened by any charges. With the court's decision in her favor, she is now free from legal obligations and can begin to move forward with her life without the weight of the trial hanging over her.